through your filtering system and come out of your mouth, and it is evidence of what's in your heart. Now, let's be honest from the get-go. This happens to all of us, okay? This message is for all of us. I got a big mirror here. All of us can point to times in our life when, you know, we just kind of puke out stuff. Junk just comes out of our mouth. I'll be honest, I've had a little bit of it this week watching the Olympics with some of the judging during the gymnastics. Like, stinking rotten cheater, you know. But you know, we respond by apologizing and saying that we're sorry. Then we say to ourselves, hey, I'm never going to say that again, and I'm going to double my efforts. No, I'm going to triple my efforts to filter what I say. But Jesus would say to us, listen, you're responding the way because of what's in your heart. That's what lurks within that dark place that you've never really learned to monitor. And that's what lurks, and what lurks there unmonitored will eventually make its way into all of your relationships. Because eventually something is going to happen in our life, and our filter is going to break down, and something is going to come out of us, and we're going to want to convince everyone, hey, this is so uncharacteristic of me. Hey, I'm not like this at all. But the truth is, it's a reflection of our heart. Teens, young adults, listen to me. If you're dating someone and your relationship is like, oh, he's so wonderful. Oh, she's so wonderful. But then every once in a while it's like, oh, that wasn't like him. Or, ooh, that wasn't like her. Where on earth did that come from? The answer is his heart. Her heart. And when you marry him or her, guess what they'll bring into that relationship? Their heart. And in the context of marriage, the filtering system tends to get a little bit thinner. And the efforts to monitor seem at times to wane. If you don't believe me, just ask any married person here. And here's the thing. If in this relationship that you're in, there are these occasional uncharacteristic outbursts, if there are some, I will guarantee you this, in the future, there will be more. Because Jesus says that this stuff, it comes from the heart. You see, we grow up in a world that teaches us to monitor and edit our words, but it doesn't teach us to develop the art of monitoring our heart. And this is what Jesus is talking about here to these religious guys, and he wants to make sure that they're getting it, so he continues. Verse 19. For out of the heart come evil thoughts. Wait a minute, Jesus. My thoughts don't come from my heart. But Jesus would say, yes, they do. No, my thoughts come from my brain. No, your evil thoughts come from your heart. When you have evil thoughts, it's because there's something evil in your heart. Well, yeah, Jesus, I know that I have evil thoughts sometimes, so I just say to myself that I shouldn't think about that and that I should put a monitor on my thinking. And Jesus says, well, that's great, but it still comes from your heart. You have an evil heart. Oh, no, Jesus, I don't have an evil heart. I'm a good person. My mama always said that I was a good boy. And Jesus says, your mama was wrong. You're an evil boy. You've got a pretty sophisticated filtering system, but if your mind is constantly filled with evil thoughts, even thoughts that you never express, you have a heart problem. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, including murder. Murder comes from the heart? Absolutely. And this is not too difficult to see, is it? Because when they investigate a murder and they find the person that committed the murder, there are usually major issues surrounding that person. When there's a murder, who do the police contact first? That's right, the family. Why? Because the vast majority of murders happen within the context of family or people that know one another. Because they find out that inside of this murderer there was something that was stirring around, something that got bent relational, and it was just festering and stirring, and finally it broke through the filter of thou shalt not murder. You know, everybody agrees that murder is not acceptable behavior. So what causes people to murder? Jesus would say that something pierced through the filter and they murdered because something was wrong with their heart. Verse 19. Murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimonies, slander, which is usually driven by jealousy. You know, an attitude of, I want to feel better about me, so I'm going to tear you down a little bit. I want to feel better about what I have, so I'm going to criticize what you have. I want to feel better about me, and when I'm around you, I don't feel so good about me, and the only way for me to feel better about me is to say something so other people don't feel as good about you. And so we slander others. And people say, you shouldn't say that. And we go, yeah, you're right. I know I shouldn't say that. I've got to learn to filter my mouth. But Jesus would say, no, you've got to learn to monitor your heart. Because those words aren't simply bad manners. Those words are a reflection of something going on in our heart. You know, surveys prove that this is true. Because, now think about this. When they ask people if they would have an affair, if they knew that there would be no consequences, many people say yes. And when they ask people if they would murder someone, if they knew that they could get away with it, many people say yes. What is it? Jesus tells us right here. Jesus says it's a heart issue. Now think about this. You see, these same people that answer yes to these questions, they've probably never killed anyone, and many of them have chosen not to have an affair, even though they would like to have one. Why is that? Here's the answer. It's because they've learned to monitor and filter their behavior. But there's still this stuff stirring around in their heart, and it's gone unmonitored, and it's gone undealt with, it's not been dealt with, and it continues to grow and grow and grow. And then one day in a weak moment, one day when the filter is wearing thin, one day when they're not as careful as they usually are, it's going to creep to the surface, and it's going to wreak havoc on all the relationships that they care about the most. Now, we've been talking about they, but let's just make sure we're real clear about this, okay? My friends, this is our world too. This is our world. This is my world. This is your world. Because we all have those times when we lose it and we say things that we shouldn't say or act in a horrible way. And we say to ourselves, where did that come from? And Jesus says, it's your heart. As parents, sometimes, I hate when this happens, we stand against certain things and we teach our children to stand against them, but then one day, in a weak moment, we turn around and do the very thing that we say that we are against. Why? Jesus would say that it's our heart. And the reason that he speaks to us about this, now hear me, is because this idea, this concept, it's not intuitive. This isn't something that we just get. This isn't something that we just grasp naturally. Remember, we live in a world that teaches us to monitor and edit our words, but it doesn't teach us to develop the art of monitoring our heart. But until we learn to monitor our heart, the problem will never be fixed. And this is why Solomon, the wisest man in the world, talks about this same thing in the Bible. Here's how he puts it in Proverbs 4:23. This is what he says. He says, above all else, that's kind of when I say to you, now church, if you don't get anything else I say today, get this. He says, above all else, Solomon says, hey, the most important thing is to guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Literally, it's where life comes from. We live from our heart. We love from our heart. We parent from our heart. We lead from our heart. We manage our money from our heart. We conduct our relationships from our heart. Solomon says, guard your heart. It is the wellspring of life. Your words, your emotions, your actions, all that stuff, hey, it springs from our heart. Solomon is just agreeing with Jesus here.